After half a month, Violet went to Maureen's silk shop. The people who gathered at Maureen's silk shop book club were all restless. It was not only embarrassing for the princess to join such a small gathering of people with only money, but she wasn't even just a princess, but a princess whose husband is winter blooming. A woman was standing there, with straight posture. Despite her modest appearance, everyone in the meeting immediately noticed that she was Violet Blooming. Lady introduced Violet to others. Please welcome Madam Violet Blooming to our book club. Violet now and greets everyone with courtesy. One lady asked from Madame Morini, why did you invite the princess here? Madame Morini replied, I didn't expect her to actually come to a gathering of merchants. When I received her letter, I thought a disaster was about to strike. Violet wrote, I remembered that you invited me to your book club last time you came to the Blooming estate. If it's all right with you, could you tell me the schedule so I can attend the next meeting? She's the wife of Winter Blooming, the man that has complete control over commerce on Leon Road. She must have a reason for attending an insignificant gathering like this one. I should be careful not to step on her toes. Violet asked from Morini, you said this was your store, correct? Morini flinched. She immediately got up from her chair and replied, pardon, that's correct, Princess Mean. Madam, I'm actually quite ashamed of my humble little store. We should have at least gotten you a more comfortable chair. Violet replied, oh, don't say that. I simply came to thank you today. Thank you for inviting me to your cozy shop, Madame Morini. Ladies thought, Madame Violet is actually much more gentle of a person than I thought she'd be. After the meeting, Violet left the place. She thought, I was honestly quite nervous. I mustered up all my courage so I could try and make friends. Had I been rejected by them as well? They all treated me very nicely, but they were afraid of winter. Even so, Violet got up early. Everyone was really sad that she was leaving, so she was quietly excited to see if they really liked her. Finally, Violet felt relief and she thought while blushing, the weeks without Winter passed by quickly. Winter already informed Flip that he should tell all the conversation that happens during the Blooming banquet to Violet, thinking that Catherine would not be able to hold the party easily because she had no money. For the time being, the fear in her heart disappeared and became lighter. Perhaps because of that, while Winter was gone, the mansion was perfectly quiet for a while. But I feel so anxious. Violet walked back to the carriage but paused in front of a store. She liked the platinum wristwatch that she saw over the show window. It was a product with a price that made her hesitant, but on the contrary, it would be too cheap for Winter. Violet, who had been hesitant for a long time, mustered all her courage and entered inside the store. Violet, who had been hesitant for a long time as the merchant approached, he asked, welcome, madam. Is there something you're looking for in particular? She replied, I want to give my husband, Lord Winter Blooming, a present. Could you show me the watch that's in the window display? Then the merchant flinched. He paused and said, well, just take it. What do you need? Will just the wristwatch suffice? You're welcome to take anything from our store. Violet replied, how can I do that? I have a brooch that I don't use. I want to remove from my collection. Please show me, he said. The merchant looked closely at the brooch. Although the trend is outdated, it is still valuable. So fortunately there is a larger price difference. With the price difference, he said, with this watch you can purchase more product. Violet saw a handkerchief and asked to pack it too. He replied, madam, still some amount is left. She said, then could I get the rest as change? And Philippe, take this and buy some snacks for the staff working in the mansion, and returned home after that. Flip replied, yes madam. She thought, now that I think about it, I've never once bought a gift for Winter, since he's always away on every major occasion. I wonder will he like it? When Violet returned, Jen he made, inform her, the snacks you bought for us were super delicious, madam. Everyone loved it. Violet asked, did you really enjoy it that much? Jen replied, of course, only crumbs remain left. Jen took some medicine, pill on the spoon, sprinkled it with honey. Violet asked, what's this medicine? Jen replied, it's a new medicine prescribed by your physician. Violet said, I see. I'll have to thank doctor later. Violet gulped it down in one bite and drank water. While Jen was about to leave the room, Violet asked, "Is Winter back yet?" Jen replied, "Yes, but the president went to his bedroom right away. Would you like to greet him? Should I prepare your nightgown?" Really? She thought. Winter must be tired. From long journey, she continued. That's not necessary. I'm sure he needs some rest. I'll greet him tomorrow. You can retire for the day as well. Yes. Ma'am, I hope you have sweet dreams, Jen said, and then she leave the room. She thought, it's already quite late, and there's no need for me to rush. I'm sure he already owns plenty of better watches. He probably won't even care about this one. My goodness, I got ahead of myself and bought it on an impulse. I should reconsider in the morning if I should give it to him or not. Yes, in the morning. She can't fall asleep. Just in case, she went to Winter's bedroom and saw the lights leaking out because the lights hadn't been turned off yet. Winter? Violet knocked on the door and a voice from the inside said, "Come in." Violet, who opened the door, paused. Hyle was still reporting something. Violet was embarrassed to walk around in pajamas, so she wondered if she should close the door again, but then Winter said to Hyle, "What are you doing? Get lost." "I was going to do that anyway," Hyle said, and quickly left the bedroom. Violet walked in with a slightly red face and stood in front of Winter, who was walking towards her. He continued, "Perfect timing. I was actually about to come to see you about something. Sit down," Winter said, and pulled out a chair. She was embarrassed to hand over the present right away. "Oh, did you say you had something to say? Come and sit down," he said. Violet said, "If you insist." Scene shifts to doctor's room. Maid Jen, who went to Winter's newly hired Dr. Beryl. Jen, who was out of breath, said, "Dr. Beryl, I came to retrieve the prescription for the headaches. I apologize for being late. I was helping Madame Violet get ready for bed." "Beryl, Violet's current doctor," he replied. "Ha ha, slow down or you'll fall. So, have you given her any of the medicine yet?" Jen replied, "Yes, as you said, I gave it to her just before she went to bed." Doctor said, "Good work, have her take it the same way this time too." "Thank you, doctor," she replied. She then continued and said, "Speaking of which, I'm quite worried about Madame Violet. Her body is so fragile, yet she wishes to bear a child." Doctor gets shocked. He asks, "What do you mean? Didn't the two of them not want any children?" Ah replied, "Pardon, you must have misheard. Madame Violet desperately wishes for a child." That's strange, he thought. The Duke asked him to give it to Violet because his son and his son's wife didn't want to get pregnant. Not worry. It's a safe drug that helps facilitate a healthy pregnancy, so they asked him to keep it a secret. Beryl was holding the medicine and money given by Duke James Blooming. But why is James Blooming secretly feeding her this medicine? Isn't it a drug that can help her get pregnant? As such doubts arise, he thought he would rather confess now. Beryl was terrified, but with an indifferent face, he snatched the bottle of medicine from Jen's hands. She asked, "What happened, doctor?" He thought, however, it was hard to avoid punishment because he had been paid twice already for giving Violet this medicine. He took a gasp and said, "Never mind, it's nothing. I just thought I gave you the wrong bottle." She replied, "On Mew, you really surprised me there. It's the correct bottle, right?" He wobbled and said, "Yes, it seems so. All right then. It's getting late. I should be returning now." Jen replied, "Good evening, doctor. Thank you so much. Please be careful." He thought, there's nothing I can do now, following orders from the Duke and Duchess. I know nothing. Scene shifts to the back in Winter's room. He said, "There's a mansion in the capital that you might like. Hyle is negotiating right now." "What kind of mansion is it?" she asks. He replied, "It's a little bit on a hillside. There's a sunny garden and a white fence. If we succeed in buying it, let's stay there next spring. Do whatever you want. Cover the garden with flowers." Winter was talking as if it wasn't a big deal, but when he glanced at Violet, her eyes were filled with innocent joy. Winter laughed at the sight. "Oh my, you must be happy." She replied, "Happily, thank you." Violet was encouraged by happiness and continued. Well, I saw a wristwatch on the street earlier. He said, do you like the watch? Do you want me to buy it for you? But I heard that nobles don't wear watches, for some reason. Should I buy it for you? She said, no. That's not what I want. I already bought it. I wasn't sure whether I'd be able to get the right size just by looking at your wrist. Winter looked at Violet, who had already brought it, but looked as if she was wondering what to do. Afraid of being rejected again, she fiddled with the box and eventually opened it. She pulled Winter's wrist towards her. As tall as he was, his arms and legs were long, so he didn't look uncomfortable even when she pulled them like that. Would it be the right length because I bought it with a guess? Violet murmured and recklessly fastened the watch. She thought, what a relief, it fits just right, and it looks great on him. She then spoke, I don't know if you like it though. Winter twitched and asked, what is the occasion? Pardon, she flinched and saw him with surprised face. He continued, on what occasion are you giving me this? It's an object that's distanced from royalty like you. She lowered her head and said, but you wear them, and it reminded me of you, so I wanted to gift it to you because I thought it would look good on you. Winter examined the watch carefully. He said, I see, but you don't have to do something like this again. From Winter's words, Violet got startled. He continued, I'm simply someone who brings in the money. There's no need to give me anything in return. Violet was surprised. She then replied that no one in this world should have to live like that. He said, why not? That's something I live by, so I don't expect anything. He thought, nothing ever comes back from waiting or hoping for something. Besides, no one cares enough to wait for me anyway. Winter briefly recalled the day when he first met Violet. On the day of the wedding, he was talking to Hyel. My lord, do you know how to do a knight's greeting? If the ladies stick out their hands first, you can hold them with both hands and pretend to kiss them. Winter replied, I know, but why would you tell me that? Hyel continued, you've already been given the title of lord when you got engaged. Yeah. It's been a month since I got it, and I've never seen anyone call me lord. Let alone that way of greeting. Everyone calls me Mr. But would a sky-like princess acknowledge a man who has just been knighted and has gray eyes right away? It was such a sarcastic remark. He only paid money to buy a title. I'm someone whose worth only increases when his wealth does. I'm an outlander that no one acknowledged. He didn't think seriously about it until he saw a woman who looked too young, dazzling, and nobler than expected got off. A woman like a flower that blooms only in the sky who can never be touched, and she looked at Winter. Nice to meet you, Sir Winter, holding out her hand as if it were natural. Winter broke out from his memory from Violet's voice. Winter, are you listening to me? No one in the world should have to live like that. Those rules don't make any sense. He thought, Violet has always turned the way I live my life upside down. Clenching his fist, he said, I still don't understand. Why would a princess like you act like a commoner and buy a watch? She replied, as I expected, it's not to your liking. No, it is to my liking, he said. Yes. I'm going to wear it for the rest of my life. Only then did Violet laugh, relieved at his joke. Winter glanced at her smile, and he smiled once. As he got closer to her, he felt like he was becoming an ordinary man. He felt like he should just be an ordinary husband, coming back if being waited for, thinking of the other person even on something that has nothing to do with him, without feeling pressured or inferior to the other person's status or lineage. He didn't have to prove his existence with money. Just like an ordinary man. Violet then broke room silence and said, oh my, look, what's the time? Winter said, ah yes. You must be quite tired at this hour. If that's all, you should go back and rest. Your body needs it. Violet thought for a while and said in a businesslike voice, it's been 2 days since we joined in a room. After all, it was urgent business, but I think it's okay today. I mean, if it's fine with you, I don't think a 2-day difference would be that big of a deal. Winter saw Violet's innocent face and smirks, and said, how candid of you, princess. He continued said, This is very unlike you. You're never the one to offer. She replied, It's not very unlike me. Well, it's a date set by the family. Is that really it? He asked. She continued, Should I have another reason? If you don't want to, then just say so. Violet continued, Of course, I know you don't like children or sleeping together, but to some extent, in a marital relationship. Wait a minute, he said. Winter narrowed his eyebrows. He said, Even if I said I don't like children, why do you think I don't like sleeping together? You said you were dissatisfied last time. It also seems like you're always avoiding it, she said. Violet tried to speak calmly as usual, but she couldn't hide her expression because she was hurt inside. She continued, I understand because the situation was like that, so you must have hated it. Her heart ached after barely finishing her words. He grabbed Violet's arm and said, Violet, don't take this the wrong way, but if it weren't for that damn rule about when we should be sleeping together, I would have spent every night with you until you got sick of me and chased me out of the room. At his words, Violet wrapped her hands around her mouth and saw him with little boundaries. She then said, Exactly which part causes misunderstanding? He replied in hurry, I just didn't want you to misunderstand me as some guy who only thinks about that kind of thing. Well, if that's what you wanted me to not misunderstand, it's a little too late, she replied. He continued and tried to give her explanation. What I'm trying to say is that you've been looking at it the wrong way. It's not that I don't like sleeping with you. She then replied, All right, I understand. I'll try to change the sleeping rules then. But too drastic of a sudden change would be difficult for me. He asked, Can I kiss you and can I also do it like last time? Winter looked distressed, but as if that was enough, he lifted up Violet, hugged her, and headed to his bed. He laid his wife on the bed and lowered his head to untie the ribbon on the neck of her pajamas with his teeth. Then Violet said seriously, Oh, you can do this with your hands. Winter had an unsure expression on whether to laugh or suffer. Violet tilted her head, wondering why he looked like that. He said, You're usually very smart, but why are you so clueless in bed? The next day, Winter got up earlier than Violet, and he took a cold water shower. He kept thinking about Violet while taking the shower. He took 3-4 shower to cool down himself. Damn, why he is so hot. After taking a shower, he came back to his room. He saw Violet sleeping soundly. He strokes her hair. And then someone knocked on the door. It was Hyle. When Winter opened the door, Hyle said, Good morning, President. I heard there was something you'd like to discuss? Winter said, Yeah, and don't come in yet. Violet's still asleep. Hyle handed him coffee. Winter opened his mouth after he gulped down coffee to get rid of fatigue. Winter continued, I thought about it yesterday. About a child. All I've seen so far is the mixed race in LaCroix, right? Hyle response, That's right. It's easier to retrieve information about mixed children. Winter continued, I want you to look into the area where the Kanites tribe used to occupy. Must be some information there, too. Hearing Winter's words, Hyle asked, President, you wouldn't ask me to cross the continent and go to the Alika region, would you? Think about my wife and child. Winter replied, You don't have them. Hyle shouts, I would if only you didn't work me to death. This is too much. Then send someone to find out, Winger replied. Hyle was relieved to hear that he didn't have to go in person. He said, Yes, sir. After giving him some brief reports, Hyle left. He thought, Although I doubt we'll find any useful information, I have to find a way to be able to bear a child so that she won't bring up divorce ever again. It would have been nice if one could just pop out of thin air. If only that was possible. If only I could get rid of all the excuses Violet could use to leave me. Well, viewers, isn't this imaginative kid is so cute? Violet woke up. She called Winter. Are you already working? He said, You are awake. How are you feeling? Violet replied, Good morning. It's hard for me to stand. Winter said, Don't strain yourself. Your body is delicate. Since you're up, I was hoping that you'd take a look at the outfit that I'll be wearing to the monastery. Violet sat on a chair. The sponsor party is this week already. All right. Let's see it. She read invitation letter and said, the invitation says you should dress according to the basic formality. You need a white bow tie. Can't it be a different color? Winter asked. Violet replied, if we're speaking about the basic formality in Le Crown, then it's white shirts and white bow ties for men. He almost made a big mistake from the start. Violet continued, he said. Violet asked, are you going to go with the blue one for the handkerchief? It would be better if you chose the blooming household's preferred color. The blooming household's preferred color? Is there even such a thing? Winter asked. Winter's annoying murmur made Violet look embarrassed. Then Winter narrowed his eyebrows. He said, the nobles really are an odd bunch. Don't make that face. I didn't have a chance to learn. She wasn't surprised to think that Winter was pathetic for not knowing that. She was surprised that the blooming couple did not tell him what they should have told him. Although the capitalist was exceptionally more than usual, the people of Le Crown were ashamed to show off something openly. However, there was a contradiction in showing superiority and factionalism among them with their preferred jewelry or colors, but to think that his parents didn't share such an important family detail. Violet said, it's good. I just bought a handkerchief. Violet brought the box containing the watch and took out the dark gray handkerchief that had been laid under it. She said, the people of the Lawrence family prefer dark gray. He asked, isn't that something I'm not supposed to wear? Violet replied, you are my husband, but if you don't like it, then you don't have to. Just like how I'm considered a member of the Blooming household. You are also a member of the Lawrence household. She helped Winter to get dressed. She said, then the bow tie would just be the finishing touch you need. He said, when it comes to things like this, I consider it a good thing that we can switch our bodies. Violet replied, I'm glad I can be of help. While we're on that topic, there's something I wanted to ask of you. Winter, would it be possible to switch our bodies a day earlier? He asked, what, a day before the sponsor party? She continued with dull expression on her face. Your mother will host a tea party that day. Since we were going to switch our body anyway, I was hoping you would go in my place. Winter saw Violet's depressed face. Then he opened his mouth. Fine, but you have to bring in a big profit from the Cantu's monastery in return. Violet replied, okay, then I will work hard. Winter then said, ok, then we will switch bodies on Saturday morning. Violet replied happily, yes sure. I'll prepare for it accordingly. She thought, I'd forgotten that the party was this week. Inevitably, time has passed and the promised day has come. I've become so much closer to Winter these past few days, and we've been working hard to understand each other. But what if we can't switch our bodies anymore? What if I end up dead instead? The happiness I've gathered and my expectations of our future are weighing me down. I can't pretend as if I'm not afraid to perform such an act. On Saturday morning, Violet, who was ready to go to the tea party, opened a drawer and took out a small bottle of medicine. Inside it was a poison extracted from the southern white clover that was obtained while managing the garden. She learned that this amount will kill in a matter of minutes. Violet looked at the medicine bottle and said to herself, I'm a little scared. She suddenly remembered Winter, who was joking around beside her. She thought, nothing will change even if I'm scared. I'm still a sinner to Winter, and I still have to endure all criticism. Out if I have no choice but to live such a life. Wouldn't it be better that I die now? Clengaze her chest, and said I don't care what happens to me, is what I want to believe. If I die like this, will Winter attend my funeral? This exact thought crossed my mind during that first time. I thought I didn't have any lingering feelings left. But it seems that I'm still expecting a lot from Winter. It was dark as if she was falling asleep, but when she opened her eyes, she was in the carriage. Hyle was sitting opposite. He spoke, My lord, is everything okay? I'm fine. Where are we going? She replied. Oh, we're going to the tea party that is being held by the lady. I think it'll take about 2 hours, madam. When asked where they were going, Hyle immediately noticed and answered the question in soft words. She thought we successfully switched bodies, but it's still hard to get used to Winter's body. Violet felt Winter's healthy body comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time. Even the carriage, which was made relatively to Winter's body shape, felt stuffy because the ceiling felt low. Violet, who had opened the window to look outside, touched her husband's watch in his wrist, and said, "You really haven't untied your watch." Hyle, who was checking the document without a break, heard her talking to herself, and replied, "He really cares about it. He usually gets tired of things easily." "That's a relief." Violet smiled unconsciously. After that, she looked at the clock for a while. She jokingly said to Hyle, "Yes, his personality is like fire indeed. I hope he's not flipping any tables at the tea party." Scene shifts to tea party. Winter arrived at the Bloomings mansion. As soon as guests saw Violet, they all start whispering. It seems that Madame Violet has arrived. Here she is again, without her husband. Do you think the rumors are true? Guest kept whispering. Even Winter can hear their voice clearly. One said, "Does Sir Winter really?" He thought, "Looks like they've started to talk about me, as expected. Not one person has even bothered to say a word to me. Whatever. It's none of my business. I only came here for Violet's sake anyway." Winter moved through the crowd. He knew Violet didn't have any friends here, so he was going to make friends by releasing advanced information while he was here. Winter had a tight grip on the local commercial district, so he looked familiar. A man said, "So I've heard that they're planning to build a new building at the entrance of Leon Road." Another guest asked, "Really? It's the first time I'm hearing of this. The building's supposed to be for?" He said, "Well, there's been no information about the purpose of it yet." Winter stepped in immediately and said, "I heard there's a theater company coming in." Hearing Violet words, guests are shocked. They ask, "How do you know, madam?" Winter replied, "My husband told me." "Now, do you have anything else that you're curious about?" Winter thought, the building owned by Winter. "I guess it's time to slowly start putting this body swap to good use. Maybe I can help Violet make some friends by sharing vital money-making information. Given the occasion, I guess I can share some valuable information that'll help make you some money." Winter, who inadvertently expressed his money by putting his thumb and index finger in a circle, belatedly recalled that his wife would never do this. People began to ask this and that as if they had waited. Guest asked, "I heard Lord Winter called all the busy merchants a while ago. Is that true?" Winter replied, "Why did he call them all? He only called the high-end stores." Guest asked, "Either way, that must mean he did call all of them?" "That's correct. I was in need of new clothes," Winter replied. Guests start gossiping, "So he called all of them over for his wife." Sir Winter did. One even asked, "Then what about the garden party that was held at the capital? Did you really attend the party with Sir Winter?" Winter thought, I thought I said I'd share valuable money-making information, but what's with all these cheap gossips?" He continued, "Yes, that's true too. We went together." Someone said, "I suppose all the rumors are true then." Winter asked, "The rumors?" Guest replied, "The rumors that Sir Winter has forgiven you, madam." Winter flinched. He asked, "I did what? What is there for me to forgive?" VO before he can shout, he heard a small disturbance, and when he turned around, a lady was embarrassed by food spilled into her clothes. As Winter turned his head without much interest, the woman in front said, "After Lord Winter forgave you, the scapegoat has changed. In the meantime, looks like the next target has been marked." Winter asks, "Did she do anything wrong?" Lady replied, "She's the one that's been harassing you, madam. Now that Sir Winter has forgiven you, she'll most likely become the target of a new gossip whirlwind. Either way, there's no need for you to be polite to her." The word gossip hits Winter hard. The lady continued, "That's right. If you get tangled with the likes of her, you'll receive the same treatment as before." Winter, who frowned at the word forgiveness and wondered what it means, looked back again. The lady, who looked blankly at her clothes, stood under the shade of a tree like a sinner. The people next to him shouted back. Perhaps because they thought Winter and Violet's relationship had improved, the sensible nobles apologized and made excuses for what had happened. Even if he didn't know the details, he could only see that Violet had been a sinner who was not forgiven by her husband, so if she didn't dress up in a dark and modest way to fit his subject, she suffered from harassment and criticism. Violet had always asked him with a soft expression and tone. Later, she came out angry and begged hard. But Winter did not do his wife's favor until the day he changed his body. Winter, who resented his blood all his life, has never been more grateful for his bloodline than he is these days. If he hadn't changed his body, he would still be putting his work first. As it was about time Violet arrived, Winter was nervously standing where the carriage stood. There were so many things he wanted to ask her. As he was nervous, his brother, Dave, approached. "Violet, what are you doing here?" Winter looked back at him with annoyance, and said, "I'm waiting for my wife, no husband." Dave said regretfully at the words, "He has never come here before." Winter replied, "He's coming today." Dave sighed softly, "Stop daydreaming, and waiting for someone who won't come and rely on me." Winter shouts, "Why would I rely on you?" It was so absurd that he suddenly spoke informally, but Dave didn't care and answered, "How long are you going to be so lonely? Stop being stubborn, Violet." Dave naturally wrapped his hands around his sister-in-law's. His behavior made an impression on Winter and he pushed Dave roughly. Dave smiled funnily. Winter paused at his laugh. Then Violet, who was in Winter body, arrived. She said, "That's enough. Our manhwa ends here, my friends. Let's talk about the spoiler. Does Winter will do something?" Yes, he will, but still he can't leave his grumpy behavior and thinks Violet as something like a glass who he should keep in his locker, more precisely a fancy locker. Winter ignorance needs to be fixed, but he never put his mind into it until Violet leaves him. Our poor girl has been trying so hard to keep it all together and she just gets pain, humiliation, and mistreat in return. Until Winter learns how to respect her as an equal human being, I will still hold him accountable for her unhappiness in this marriage. Thanks for watching this part. Do like, comment and subscribe to our new emergency channel. In case something happens to this one. Hope nothing happens. Till then, bye and be safe.